morning to everyone here. This is an awareness campaign brought to you by the 11th and 12th Girls Section. It aims at spreading awareness on women's safety, women empowerment, and why it is so important in today's day and age. I'm Manushka Chakraborty, and I will be your host for this event.
The word feminism is often equated to a lot of different emotions. Some find it overwhelming, some find it scary, some find it useless. Most of them think that feminism means a bunch of angry women hating on men, and because of this, they want nothing to do with it. But in reality, feminists just want one thing: equality. I'm Malvika Rajesh, and I'll be your host for this event.
In the 3 hours that I've been waiting to talk to you, 6 women aged between 2 to 80 would have been raped in India. 3 young brides would have been burnt in their kitchens. More than 300 female young unborn fetuses would have been smothered, slaughtered.
And when another male friend turns out to be a rapist, the same male friend who wore feminism across his chest like a pageant sash, I can't help but remember meeting him at a sexual violence prevention rally and the disappointing irony. And when another male friend who identifies as a feminist gives himself permission to make a rape joke and call it reclamatory, as if he doesn't already catcall the girl who jogs by his house every day to remind her that she is just a woman. There is a fraternity in Minnesota that paints the stone lions outside their front door the color of the panties of the last girl they successfully assaulted.
They all work on the assumption that privileged rich men are the only ones who have a mind. Women don't, nature definitely doesn't, and the other beings are just there to be exploited.
If the Prime Minister wants to, politically speaking, make an honest woman of herself, something that would never have been said to any man sitting in this chair, sexism should always be unacceptable. We should conduct ourselves as it is, should be always unacceptable.
And I've realized that nobody is safe long as she is alive. And every friend that I know has a story like mine. When babies are ripped from the arms of teen mothers and child brides cry globally under the covers, who don't have a voice on the magazine covers. But we are not free until all of us are free. Listen, and then yell at the top of your lungs. Be a voice for all those who have prisoner tongues.
We were 13 years old when we would walk down the street and had men look from our feet to our face, and we listened as they completely replaced our identity from human to object. We quietly said, please don't touch us there. We know we're asking for it by wearing these heels, but we just feel so uncomfortable, so stop. But that meant go. We said no, but that meant yes, so they grabbed us and unzipped our dress. We want to make sure we are as covered as possible so that our identities are not replaced with walking candy. We went from playing with our toys to being toys ourselves. So boys will be boys, and us women will never tell.
The hand that rocks the cradle, the procreator, the mother of tomorrow, a woman shapes the destiny of civilization. Such is the tragic irony of fate that a beautiful creation such as a girl child is today one of the gravest concerns facing humanity.
First up, we have an interview conducted with some of our teachers, Ms. Mahima Chopra, Ms. Julie Sarala Kumaran, and Ms. Roshni Alex, conducted by Shweta Iyer of 12 Science C.
So teachers, who is a woman that you look up to in your life and what sets them apart?
I think a major impact in my personal life is created by my professors. So, it's from them how they changed my way of seeing the world in their own little ways in which our discussions or our conversations, they made me realize the importance of speaking out. A little different from what Julie ma'am said, being opinionated, having an opinion. It made me realize that there are certain things that you need to demand for yourself in society, because the society is not forgiving and society is never adjusting. You have to demand it for yourselves. So I think my professors have a huge role to play.
Mine is actually it's a character actually of a book that I used to read, Anne of Green Gables. I'm not sure if you've
Oh,
read
that's a
that.
classic, yeah.
Yeah, so Anne of Green Gables is a kind of I think girls the kind of the girl that she was, the girl that she's been portrayed to be. I think I did admire a lot because she was different. She stood out, but she was never embarrassed to be who she was. So yeah, Anne of Green Gables, and then like Mahima said, of course, my mother. Many ways on how I should be, and she showed me ways I shouldn't be as well. So I guess improving on the decisions she took, my life is an example of that, I guess. So yeah, these are the two women I really look up to.
That's amazing. So we all recognize that there are some structural inequalities that still exist that hold women back. Like, for example, some women get paid less in the workforce, or they're discriminated against just because of their gender. So give us your thoughts on this.
Oh, that's a long one. That's a long one to answer. But if I start talking about structural inequalities that women face, it's a long one. You know, it starts, in my opinion, very, very innocently and unconsciously. These kitchen sets are gifted to girls, and these
Definitely.
dinosaurs and trucks and all of that is gifted to boys. So from very young, innocent age, when these children are not even aware, we introduced gender roles to them. It goes on to a stage where I feel in the household level, where we see decision making power, where the concept of the man of the house comes in. When we see
Yeah.
decision making power in the house is with one gender and not the other, that is structured inequality. Going on to moving ahead, when in the workplace, in the occupational place, where you see that one gender is given more priority, is seen as more efficient, more hardworking, more diligent, and then the other, the employer themselves justify them not being paid enough or not hiring them in the name of saying, you know, she will prioritize her family or she will go for a maternity leave. So they themselves give us the gender role, and then they justify not taking us based on the gender role that they themselves give us. So I feel all of that adds up to the structural inequality that exists in the society around us. So it's all of this, according to me, impede a woman's ability to move forward. Whether then it is, these are the social norms, the social values that justify women not having an equal stand with the men. So and then it gets replicated everywhere, to equal access to education, to equal employment opportunities, and political representation.
Um, to add to that question, so we notice that there is so much bias that we unconsciously internalize within ourselves. So how do you think, or what are some steps we can take to unlearn this?
I remember once my mom was so frustrated with my questioning that she said that, you know, we are brought up, girls are meant to be seen and not heard. So that was a statement she used with me, as you know, as a point of arguing. And I was speechless. I mean, that it was a time when I used to talk a lot, but I was speechless. And I was saying, Mommy, do you realize what you just told me? And she said, that's exactly how society expects. So learn not to have so many opinions. And I think I told before, right, there are certain things my mother didn't do or did that made me realize I don't want to be that way. And I think that made me understand that I didn't want to be quiet. But I realized that, you know, as we get married, as we enter a new house, I unconsciously adopted that because I wanted to do the right thing. And that was my only, it was not that I felt inferior or any of that, but unconsciously knowing that this is what people expected, I wanted to do the right thing, and I kept quiet. And people thought that, oh, what a nice daughter-in-law you have. And that became difficult to get out of.
You know, ma'am, I'd like to say this, that, you know, how correctly you said I was trying to do the right thing. it's sad that, when we are growing up, it's a socialization that we are made to believe by accepting an inferior position in the house is a right thing to do. Being quiet is a right thing to do. It's that is what is actually structured inequality.
Now, touching on another sensitive subject, there's a huge community exists of people who menstruate, and a lot of these people face so many unwanted hurdles in their life as to the stigma around it, or maybe they just don't have access to education or the resources they need to deal with it. So, what would you think? Like, would be some suggestions to improve the education and the awareness around menstrual health?
Probably not in this part of the world. In developing countries, it is still a taboo. There is a lot of stigma associated with it. But
Exactly.
even at our level, actually, when I was discussing it with my daughter, I could make out asking for a pad very quietly, confidentially. You just go and ask for it as though it's something, you cannot spell it out in the open.
So you're asking for
And
something illegal, yeah.
illegal, and just covering it up and carrying it around, and using slang words to say that I have period. But we still have this kind of stigma around menstruation. So what can be done about it? It is dealt as a topic in biology, but other than that, as a school, especially children who are heading into puberty, and menstruation is not something which should only be dealt with as far as girls are concerned. We should also, it should be inclusive. Even boys should know what is happening, so that we no more face this kind of an embarrassment in talking about it.
Yeah.
One more thing which I wanted to add on, girls normally when they have these when they get periods, they think these abdominal cramps and all those difficulties which they face is just a part of the routine. Some of them do not come out in the open and speak that they actually have these difficulties, because it could be a sign of endometriosis or any other
Or
disorder.
dysmenorrhea,
So they should, yeah,
a
they should be
hundred
able to
other
speak.
things.
Yeah, they shouldn't take it as something. They shouldn't silently suffer the situation. They should speak about it alone. Is what I
Exactly.
have
We
to
should
say.
build an environment so that they feel comfortable coming out and saying things like
Comfortable.
that. Which brings me to my next question. Young minds are so impressionable, and it is these young minds that will carry society forward tomorrow, and they are the leaders of tomorrow. So, what do you think your role as teachers is in shaping young minds as future empowered leaders?
I have this quote, and I'm dying to say this ever since I came to know that the discussion is on women empowerment. You're free to make your own choices, but you're not free from the consequences of your choice. So that had such a huge impact on me. My mother said, you're free to make your choices, but the consequences of your choices, you cannot be irresponsible and say that I decide not to face it. And that is what I want the students, my girls, my daughters to know, that make your choices, but don't be irresponsible with your choices, because the consequences of that is something you cannot decide not to face. So I think as teachers and as, I have daughters, as a mother of two daughters, I think that's the, general set of guidelines that I can give them.
I'm a staunch feminist, have always been. So, the first thing that I learned, since I mentioned in the beginning that I've been hugely influenced by my professors. So one of the first things that, I tell my girls is to remove the rose tinted glasses that society gives you, that everything is happy and dandy here. Society is far more different than what it seems to be. So, and then I think also, education is the greatest tool to understand, see, analyze society and how it happens and how things are made to believe, or other young minds are made to believe in a certain aspect of society which is not true. So I think in our classes, there's a lot of discussions, there's a lot of dialogue that stresses entirely on gender equality, on equality in society, not only gender, all aspects of equality. All aspects of equality. So I think through these dialogues and discussions, I think students become aware of the structured inequality that exists in our society.
like each student of mine is a possibility of a CEO, or a possibility of a social activist that is going to change the world, or a better teacher. So all of that are possibilities for us, and we're extremely proud of our girls. I mean, I'm very proud. Every student that I teach, I'm very proud of them because they're doing their very, very best. And whether it's more or less, they're doing their best. And that for me as a teacher is a matter of a lot of pride.
Definitely. So thank you so much, teachers. This concludes our discussion for today. Thank you so much for actively participating in this very, very important conversation. Thank you.
And next, we have a dance performance organized by Apurva Kaimal, Chandana Nambiyar, Anaushka Sunil, Manasvi Madhu Mohan, Neha Enikal, Daya Prem Kumar, Ishana Subramaniam, and Radhika Natraj.
मैं कॉलेज जा रही हूँ, बाय।
मैडम ये एड्रेस कहाँ का है?
बेंगलुरु में नए साल के जश्न के दौरान भीड़ ने लड़कियों से छेड़छाड़ की। हैदराबाद में भी 2 लड़कियां छेड़खानी का शिकार बनी। कहने को ये सारी सिर्फ घटनाएं हैं, लेकिन एक महिला से पूछिए जो हमेशा इस डर के साथ घर से बाहर निकलती है कि रास्ते में उसके साथ छेड़खानी ना हो जाए, कहीं कोई उसे अगवा करके उसका रेप न कर दे।
कारी कारी रहना सारी सांधेरे क्यों लाई रोशनी के पाँव में ये बेड़ियां सी क्यों आई उजियारे कैसे अंगारे जैसे छाँव छली धूप मैली क्यों है री पंखों पर रख दिए गए पत्थर, ऐ खुदा तू गुम है कहाँ? रेशमी लिबासों को चीरते हैं कुछ खंजर, ऐ खुदा तू गुम है कहाँ? क्या रेत जल पड़ी है, क्या आग जल पड़ी है, क्यों चीखता है सुरमई धुआं? क्या रेत जल पड़ी है, क्या आग जल पड़ी है, क्यों चीखता है सुरमई धुआं?
आज से अब से आन मेरी मैं तुमको ना छूने दूंगी, जान को चाहे छलनी कर दो मान को ना छूने दूंगी। छू के देखो दिल मेरा तुम्हें दिल में अपने भर लूंगी, पर छेड़ के देखो तुम मुझको मैं तुमको नहीं छोड़ूंगी, मैं तुमको नहीं छोड़ूंगी, तुमको नहीं छोड़ूंगी। साड़ी रात दोपहरी डर डर के नहीं चलूंगी, कैंडल जला के सैंडल दिखा के मर मर के नहीं चलूंगी। जिस दुनिया में माँ बहने रिश्ते नहीं हैं, काली है उस दुनिया से मर्यादा के रिश्ते सारे तोड़ूंगी। कदम मिला के देखो तो मैं साथ में तेरे चल दूंगी, पर छेड़ के देखो तुम मुझको मैं तुमको नहीं छोड़ूंगी, मैं तुमको नहीं छोड़ूंगी, मैं तुमको नहीं छोड़ूंगी।
And next, we have a slam poem from Akshita Unnithan of 12 Arts A.
Greetings. I am Akshita Unnithan from 12 Arts A, and today I will be performing a poem on the constant onslaught of colorism faced by Indian women in their daily lives. The poem is titled The Forge of My Flesh. My grandmother says what people are made of shows on their skin. Some people are made of milk and honey and gold, and I am made from the shadows that hang like curses on the walls. I am the ash of my family's expectations, molded from the tears of a million dark-skinned women before me. In a skin the color of dirt, you are not allowed to feel like anything but dirt. They won't say it out loud, of course, because it is glorious to live in a bubble of perceived progressiveness, but it is stitched so intrinsically into all the "but who will marry yous" and the well-meaning advice I have received from my aunts. For as long as I can remember, there has always been some mixture of turmeric and basin and yogurt that has haunted me, a ghost that sticks to my skin and feeds off of it. The revulsion folded into all the layers of fair and lovely they want me to apply. Fair and lovely, my dear, fair and lovely, the holy grail of Indian aunts and the leech on my flesh. And the beautiful Yami Gautam, who wants so desperately for me to have her fair and glowing skin, because obviously the only prerequisite to prestige and dignity for an Indian woman is fair skin. Advertisements stuck on every highway and played on repeat again and again and again till my skin shrinks into itself to accommodate their hate, till it becomes impossible for me to untangle myself from the way their words form a noose around my neck. But the untangling is a process too, learning to see my skin for what it truly is. Learning to see it simply as skin, not as filth or curses or shadows, not as the pretty superficial words on the internet about how it's chocolate and coffee and cinnamon until my trauma is sweet enough for you to consume without retching in guilt and disgust. I am human, made of the same iron and heat as everyone else, and then some more. Forged in the fire from which dark-skinned Draupadi rose, the music of dark-skinned Lord Shri Krishna's flute, and the fury of dark-skinned Lord Shiva's Tandav. I am dark-skinned, and I have finally learned to love it. And what an unequivocal joy it is to finally feel at home in my own skin. Thank you.
The next segment is organized by Anuradha and Anupama Ashokan Nair of 12 Science A. It is a live self-defense session, and we hope you gain some insight into what self-defense is and maybe even learn a few karate moves of your own.
A very warm greeting to you all. I'm Anuradha Nair from 12 Science A.
And I'm Anupama Nair from 12 Science A.
And today we are going to show you some self-defense techniques. Please ensure that you follow us and do the techniques along with us. Without further ado, let's get started.
we've come to the end of this program. We hope you enjoyed and learned something new today. A big thank you to all the students and the teachers who made this event possible. And of course to the audience for giving us their time and attention.